Hey everyone, Nick here and welcome back to GamerTube, and welcome back to our Poppy Playtime character concept series. So in today's video, the character we're looking into is Wolfie. So we'll go into Wolfie's location, backstory, gameplay mechanics, and all that good stuff as well. As always, everything I say in these videos isn't necessarily linked to the overall universe and lore of Poppy Playtime. This is just a fun what-if scenario and a cool creepy character we get to show off, and we hope you enjoy. And lastly, before we start today's video, do be sure to subscribe to GamerTube as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. It also keeps you up to date with the videos that we post. Also, do be sure to leave a like as it really helps out the video, and it also lets us know you want to see more of these videos in the future. Alrighty everyone, well let's get into the character concept of Wolfie. So previously in our Poppy Playtime character concept series, we were introduced to the character of Weird Wuggy, a strange rejected toy that was shunned by all the workers. In their solitude, they changed their appearance to look more like their idols Kissy and Huggy. They grew an attachment to the main player and wanted to meet them. In the end, they helped the player pass through the exit and finally got to see the person they wanted to meet the most. But throughout Weird Wuggy's story, they had an unlikely friend. Unknown to Weird Wuggy, they had a secret friend who would help them out and cheer them up. But this secret friend grew increasingly jealous of the player. So much so that they wanted to meet the player as well, but for all the wrong reasons. But before we get to that point, let's first take a look into where it all began for this secret character. So it was a regular day as any at the Playtime Co. factory. The researchers and developers were working on a new prototype toy. This toy was the first in a new line of pet toys that they were developing. These toys would act and respond exactly like a real pet. And the plus side was, they came without all the responsibility that a real pet would require. The first prototype they were working on was Wolfie. Wolfie was a friendly wolf toy that would act just like a pet dog. But the way in which he could act like a real pet dog was quite revolutionary. But like all things at Playtime Co., although they were cutting edge for the time, they weren't exactly ethical in a sense. And in most examples, what they did at the factory was just downright evil. And this was no exception. So like all the other toys at the factory, they were bonded with the souls of orphan children. The real pet line of toys would be bonded with something similar. But instead of orphans, they would be using something in even more abundance than the orphan children. Due to Wolfie's case, they would use stray animals. Mainly stray dogs. Playtime Co. would disguise a stray animal rescue program for what was really an animal capture ring. They would use these stray animals and bond them to the real toy pets. And that's what would give them their realistic actions and movements. But they only did this procedure with one toy, and that toy was Wolfie. But the researchers would soon realise this would be a grave mistake. It turns out that the procedure of bonding a canine soul to a toy was much more complicated than the workers realised. The poor soul of the stray dog rejected the toy and caused it to mutate into a dangerous monstrosity. Its body grew too large for its mechanical inner workings and stretched and ripped all over. Wolfie's face changed into a frightening monstrosity of metal and sharp jagged teeth. Instead of soft cuddly hands, they now had razor-sharp claws. So in Wolfie's panic and confusion, they lashed out and attacked all of the researchers. The dog's soul was trapped inside a body it couldn't escape, and when an animal is backed into a corner, their only option is to attack. The researchers couldn't let Wolfie escape. So they engaged the emergency purge protocol, and they torched the entire room with searing hot flames. But unfortunately, Wolfie had already escaped out of one of the air vents. So now Wolfie would be roaming around the factory through the ventilation system. And as time went by, the only individual that they considered a friend was Weird Wuggy. Wolfie provided Weird Wuggy with gifts and always looked out for them. But Wolfie was reluctant to show his face due to it being off-putting and frightening. But in his solitude, they considered Weird Wuggy a true friend. But now that Weird Wuggy has found a new appreciation for the player, this made Wolfie incredibly jealous. And for the first time ever since they escaped from the research lab, he would finally exit from the vents and take out the player. And then after they were gone, Weird Wuggy would have no one left and things would go back to the way they were. So now we return to the player who has discovered yet again another new area in the factory. This time they weren't too sure where the exit was, but if they explore around, they're sure to discover it. What on earth is this thing? Whatever it is, the player needs to get out of here immediately. Wolfie charges towards the player as they desperately try to find a place to hide. The player dives in between two crates and gets out of sight just in time. They can see Wolfie looking around and searching for the player. Eventually, Wolfie moves on and continues his search. In this gameplay segment, the player needs to navigate around this area and try to find the exit as quickly and quietly as they can. This means that whenever they use their grab pack, the sound it makes will alert Wolfie and they will need to hide once again. Because if they don't hide in time, it will be an instant game over. So whenever the player makes it to a grab pack switch, they need to quickly activate it and hide. Moments later, Wolfie will make it over to their location and search for them. Multiple times, Wolfie and the player will be locked in the same room, and the player would need to sneak under multiple desks and get out of there. In the final gameplay segment, Wolfie would cut the power and the player would be in complete darkness. The only way the player can tell where Wolfie is by looking out for the glowing red eyes. The player can only see just a little bit in front of them. They would need to track down the override switch and turn the power back on. Eventually, after navigating through the halls and avoiding Wolfie, they finally reach the exit. So, just as they go to open it, Wolfie crashes through the ceiling. Finally, he has the player exactly where they want them. Just as Wolfie goes to deliver the final blow, he's stopped all of a sudden. The player looks over and sees Weird Wuggy has come to their rescue. This is the first time Weird Wuggy has ever seen Wolfie with his very own eyes. And at that moment, they knew exactly who Wolfie was. They had always felt a presence looking over them. And for some strange reason, they just knew it was the creature that was standing in front of them. Wolfie didn't know what to do. He just stood there and stared. For some reason, Weird Wuggy isn't frightened of his appearance like he thought they would be. They were just standing there with their big smile on their face. Weird Wuggy hands Wolfie one of his most precious items. It was the Huggy doll he gave them all that time ago. This small act of kindness completely changed Wolfie's vengeful spirit. There was no use in striking down the player anymore. He realises now that it wouldn't change a thing. The friend they've always wanted is right in front of them now. So instead, Wolfie and Weird Wuggy walk off and leave the player be. The player was still confused as to what just happened. One minute this creature was just about to end them, and the next they were being spared and able to escape. Regardless, they took this rare opportunity and made it out of there as soon as they could. Everything they've been experiencing lately has been completely weird, and they couldn't help but wonder what bizarre characters they'll face next going forward. And when it comes to the Playtime Co factory, no one will ever know what's in store for them next. Alrighty everyone, well that's all we have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider leaving a like, commenting and subscribing, as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. As always, in the comment section down below, let me know what you thought of Wolfie and what you'd like to see going forward. Alrighty, well, until the next video, catch you later, bye.